Hello, I'm Suzanne Berryhill, if we haven't already met. Today we're going to be talking about Kahoot, which is a quiz app. So, in order to understand Kahoot, you have to start by playing Kahoot. Now, traditionally we say, hey, show of hands, who's done this? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go the old-fashioned way because you can't play Kahoot until you have Kahoot. So, how many of you have experienced Kahoot in some way, shape, or form before? Okay, a couple of you. You have no idea what you're getting into, Linda? Okay, we're going. We're going for it. All right, so if you have no idea what you're getting into, we're going to actually just start by playing a basic Kahoot so that you can see how it works and kind of get the experience that your students would get. And then we'll go through how to create a Kahoot, the different types of Kahoots that there are, because there's actually more than one type, which is surprising to most people. And then we'll go through a couple of troubleshooting things that students may encounter when they're trying to play. All right, so first thing you have to do is, if you have a smartphone, you have two choices. You can either download the Kahoot app from your app store for your phone, or on your smartphone web browser and a laptop web browser, you can go, I'm going to write it over here, kahoot.it. It's also on the handout that you have. So, the first thing you're doing is going to kahoot.it, or you can choose to download the app on your smartphone. I will say the app is designed to work as an application, so it does much better on your smartphone as an app, and it does much better if you want to reserve an iPad cart. From SEC, Vicki Holtz has been great working with me in Franklin, where I'm teaching on the Macon campus. She downloaded Kahoot onto the iPad cart in Macon so that we can use the app there, because the app works much better than the browser. That said, the web browser does work, and the web browser on your phone, or again a tablet, is going to work better than the browser on a laptop or a desktop, and that's because it's a mobile version of the website, and the mobile version is designed to play the game, whereas the desktop version is designed to create a game, and so it's a little bit different. Everybody good with this so far? Have you located kahoot.it or? Okay. So we're going to just play a Kahoot. So I'll walk you through signing up, but I'm going to log in. So you want to use your email. I recommend using, when you do this, I recommend using your SEC email to sign up, because Kahoot is free for educators and for students. S_Berry. So when you're on kahoot.it, it should be asking you for a PIN number. So that PIN number is about to show up on the screen when I hit play. So when this says loading, you can choose a couple of choices. I've had complaints from students. So you can see here, once it says loaded, I can pick classic or I can pick team mode. Students do not like team mode. Okay? Thought I'd throw that out there. Younger students tend to like team mode, but as you know, our students are very mixed, right, from younger to older. And team mode requires the sharing of devices. Your 16-year-old early college students, they're going to know exactly how to share a device. Your 45-year-old student coming back to school, they're going to look at you like you're an insane person. I recommend in the community college setting that you go with classic mode, which is what we're going to play. Oh, that was not. So, now that you have kahoot.it, you're just going to type that PIN in where it's asking you for the PIN number.
The Paulson Center on SCC's Jackson campus was completed in 1988 and contained 74,000 square feet. The first floor houses a one-stop enrollment center, information desk, and administrative offices.
Yeah, so that's something you can do with Kahoot while the Kahoot's loading and players are typing in the pen and picking a nickname. You can have a video playing in the background. This video relates to the Kahoot we're about to play with SDC Trivia, since we're at SDC. So I stole this video off our website. Okay, there we go, 3 players. So then I, as the instructor, hit start, and now you have 6 SDC Trivia questions that you're going to be answering. You can set the time limit to whatever you want. I use a standard 30 seconds. So you have 30 seconds to answer the year SDC was founded in. And you can choose to go with cool music, or what I usually do, since I'm talking over my students, is at this point, I find the mute button.
Does it automatically put the music in?
Yes.
Okay.
That music's automatically in. It's kind of like Jeopardy, so you know
Right.
that it's counting down. When the title's going, I like it. Someone didn't answer.
Time up.
So, timed out, yeah. So you do have to answer in the time limit. And the time limit can be anywhere from 20 seconds to 3 minutes. So depending on what you're trying to get students to do and how quickly you're trying to get them to understand it. Traditionally, as I said, I go for a standard 30 seconds. That's typically enough time for students to read the question, and if they know it, to find the answer, because it's multiple choice. You don't need that long for a multiple choice question. So you can see the graph of how many students got it right or didn't answer. Yes, so 3 players, 2 of you answered and got it right, which is good. Yay. And then when you hit next, you're going to encounter a leaderboard. So the leaderboard is an algorithm designed by Kahoot that you will have absolutely no control over. All of you will be on the leaderboard for this presentation because it shows the top 5 people. So the larger your class, the better the leaderboard's going to be at hiding how well students are doing or how poorly they're doing. Because it only shows the top 5. So if you have less than 5 people playing, they're all going to be up there.
Now, if they want to, they can be an alias. I mean, I have a small classroom, but nicknames can be.
Absolutely. So nicknames can be pretty much anything. Now, Kahoot does have a filter, and if a student tries to type in something that Kahoot has deemed universally offensive, it will not let them type in that nickname, and they'll have to pick something else. And a screen thing, you all picked nice nicknames, but it'll actually say, naughty Kahooters beware, at the bottom of the screen when they try and put in a bad nickname. And it only pops up if someone tries to type in something offensive. But, as I said, it has to be something considered universally offensive, right? Like, rapist 1, 2, 3. Yes, that's universally offensive to people because nobody likes that. But I had a student that put in a nickname Christ Money, which got about half the class very upset, which I can understand. For students that are Christians, that would be very offensive to them. But Kahoot didn't deem it universally offensive, and so I personally had to kick the student out and tell him to put in a new nickname. So that is something you have to watch for when you are letting your students put in their nicknames.
Do you get a like a spreadsheet type of results at the end? Because like you're saying, if you have a class of 30 and say they use their real names, just pretend they're using their real names, do you get any kind of
Yes, you do. You do get an Excel spreadsheet you can download. I'm going to show you how to do that.
Cool.
After we finish playing. But that was
So do you ever request that they just use their real name so that you know who they are, or you just ask them, what was your nickname?
So I typically, the first time I played Kahoot, I said you must use your real name because this is going to be for a grade and I need to know who you are. Now let's think about this for a second and think about what Cheryl Cunting O'Connor would tell us as Dean of Students and about all those lovely FERPA lectures we listen to. We can't do that. We cannot require students to use their real names on something that's going to be in front of the entire class because that would invade privacy laws. So traditionally what I do, now that I've done it a few times and I have an idea of what's going on in my head and what my students are thinking, most students don't care and they'll type in their real name. or they'll type in a nickname and they think it's fun for the other students to try and figure out who they are when they get on the leaderboard. This morning when I was teaching, I had a student who put in his nickname is Big Grandpa. I'm like, really? You're 16 and your nickname is, that's why it was hilarious, right? Because he's going like Big Grandpa. And so everyone thought it was funny, right? Trying to figure out who it was, and of course when they figured it out they weren't surprised because the student's kind of the class clown. And he was participating and he was at the top of the leaderboard the whole time, right? He knew the information, but that's just one of the things for students, especially in the early college, they get very excited. But we cannot require students to use their real names when it's going to be showing up to the whole class. They can choose to. So traditionally what I do is at the beginning of the semester I say, make up a nickname that you like and then submit it to me and use it for every Kahoot for the rest of the semester.
Like I was thinking maybe in German I could have them use a traditional German first name or word or something, and that would be good. You could be Katja, you could be House.
Yeah, that's a great idea for a German class. And so just have students submit the nickname and go in. So, does that answer your question?
It sure did.
Okay. Yeah, so the algorithm that shows the leaderboard, right, Aaron won for this one, which is great. It's a combination of how quickly you respond and how accurate you are. So students at the top of the leaderboard are both fast and accurate. But the more questions you go through, the more the algorithm starts to change. It also looks for improvement. So students that have boosted places can end up at the bottom of the leaderboard because they may have missed the first 2 questions and then gotten 5 in a row correct. They'll end up on the leaderboard even if they're not at the top of the class. Okay? So the leaderboard is this really weird computer algorithm that I don't quite understand, but it's a combination of improvement, speed, and accuracy. All right, next question. Are you ready? Which building was first on SCC's campus? That's a photo of it when it was first built.
Oh, dang. I didn't use my context clues.
It does not look like that now.
Okay. I think I guessed.
Has it recently been worked on?
It has recently been worked on. Yeah, so 2 of you got it right.
I'm cheating, but
Yeah, so Founders was the first building on SDC's campus, and it's recently been remodeled, right, to have Cafe 64. So, yeah, and that put Lisa in the first place because she got 2 questions right in a row.
Who did that?
And that's that little competition, right, that students really like, yes?
I love it, yeah.
Yeah. They love and adore it. Okay, who is the first president of SCC? Did you know SCC has an About Our History page where I stole all of the photos and information from?
I like that you can add photos into the questions.
Yes, and they don't have to be photos from Google or from Kahoot. You can add your own, so textbook images that you've looked up. So you can keep that and see it changes. Lynn was fast.
Yes, he was.
He was Bryson.
All right.
Oh, I can get this one.
All of you should be able to get this one. All of you should get our current president. There's this lovely photo.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yes, Dr. Thomas is our current president. That is good, especially if he ever decides to watch this video. No, everyone participating knows who our current president is. But again, it's not just whether you get it right, it's how fast you get it right. So you've, Linda, gotten right on it, and you were hitting those buttons.
I started slow, but now I'm getting it.
Once you get it, you get a lot faster. So which building was most recently constructed? Not remodeled, constructed. Oh, good. Burl, nice, nice new fancy building.
I'm still in third place. Make me faster.
Yes, that's really what it is. You got to be.
The phone is faster.
The phone is definitely faster, but the thing with the phone, and students complain about this a lot, and with the school iPad carts, they're set to fall asleep after a certain amount of time. So if you because you've heard me chatting in between our questions, if you let your device fall asleep, it boots you out of the Kahoot. And here's the thing, if you wake the phone back up, it puts you back in it where you were, but if you let it fall asleep and then I start another question, right, your phone will reconnect, but it'll reconnect maybe on the next question, so you miss a question and you don't get to answer. So when that happens, you don't want students to try and reload the page or anything. Kahoot will automatically reconnect them. But I had a student complaining twice today because he kept letting his device fall asleep. And I'm like, okay, I warned him this time. I'm like, this is your third chance. I'm doing a question. Are you going to, wake up your device now so that you can play? And he's like, okay, I got it. And so sometimes you have to kind of keep that in mind, especially in some of the longer spaced Kahoots where you're talking in between the questions. All right. We get emails almost daily, so I hope you know our new restaurant. There's their breakfast menus. All right, Cafe 64. And so now we're at the end. Don't log out just yet, because what you can do is we can say, hey, Lynn was first, woohoo! And you can do prizes if you want, toss candy at your students. Sometimes they like that. I usually say, look, you won, congratulations. You can know you were the best, because I've tried.
What a prize.
Yeah. Sometimes I assign a lot of homework in my class. Sometimes I'll give students like a homework pass if they make the top 3. So, there's a variety of prizes you can do with them. Those are the 2 most common I use, are the candy and the homework passes. But sometimes I'm just like, look, you won. Congratulations. That's what we're doing today. But you can also say get results. And now you have a couple of choices, because this will give you back to the leaderboard the top 5 students. And then you can show feedback. So this is when you have the chance to rate Kahoot. You can also save that information as well. So if you want, you can go ahead and rate this Kahoot now that you've played it once and decide what you think of it. But you're giving it a star rating, you're giving it a smiley face, and you're giving it how much you learned and whether you'd recommend playing it again. In larger classes, it's unlikely you'll get perfect scores. So, and obviously students can keep changing them. The other thing you can do, and this is what Aaron was asking about, can you save the results? So, to look at the results later, to understand how they work, to see how the class did. I don't particularly care about the results of today's Kahoot because it was to teach you how to use Kahoot. But part of learning how to use Kahoot is learning how to save the results for later. So what you're going to want to do if you need to keep those results to see how the class did, to see what the class thought, is to click the Save Results button. And then you can choose to do a direct download, which is what I do because I'm really bad at Google Drive, which you would think is counterintuitive since I use Kahoot. But still not quite there. But you can either save it to your Google Drive and it'll save as a Google Sheets document, or you can save it to a direct download and it'll come up as an Excel file. Perhaps, yes. And then you can say open. So this is where you learn, right, 82% of the questions were correct, 17% were incorrect. The average score is 4,667 points, and that's out of 6,000 points because each question was worth 1,000 points. Because you want Kahoot points to be worth a lot so that the computer algorithm has something to work with on that speed, accuracy thing. When I use Kahoot to assign grades, I ignore the Kahoot points because something you can also get, it'll also save the feedback so that you can see whether students liked it or not. So you can maybe tweak it for the future if they're not doing well, or you can say, oh, this Kahoot didn't work, or this question didn't work, and fix it. So you can see their feedback. But one thing I like to do traditionally is I go to the final score when I give grades. So instead of looking at the Kahoot points, which are really, really high, what I'm actually starting to see are correct answers versus incorrect answers. And so my class is on a point system. So with Kahoot quizzes, I say, oh, this Kahoot was 6 questions, so it's a 6-point quiz. They got 5 out of 6 right, so their score is a 5. And that's how I would put it in for my grades. If you use a percentage system, you could create it into a percentage where each question right is worth a certain number of percentage points, and that's fine too. But I do recommend, if you decide to use them for actual class scores, that you use correct answers as opposed to Kahoot points.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that is something only you, the instructor, can see, or at least you as the executor as the Kahoot, once you've saved the results. That's not something that the students will ever see. All right. So, now that you know how to work Kahoot, I'm going to show you a few different ways I've used Kahoot in my classroom, and show you some different kinds of results you can get from those Kahoots, and then we'll walk through creating a Kahoot. Okay. Let's not save this. We don't want that for later.
Yeah, I can already see using it as a quiz grade after they get some practice with it, you know.
There are quite a few different ways you can do Kahoot. So the first thing you do, now would actually be a good time for you ladies to go ahead and create an account. So now you no longer want to be on Kahoot.it. If you go down on your sheet, I'm going a bit out of order, but it says down here to make a Kahoot first create an account, you're wanting to go to Kahoot.com instead of Kahoot.it. And you do need a laptop or a desktop in order to create an account. So, when you're on Kahoot.com, in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a login button. It's going to be green. Go ahead and click on that. It'll ask you for an email and a few different types of information. Just go ahead and fill it in. I've not had any problem with spam email from Kahoot or anything like that, so you're good there. Do use your SEC email account, because Kahoot has changed just a hair. They were designed as an education app, but you cannot make money and continue to work as a free education app. You have to have funding. And so Kahoot has actually gone to having Kahoot Plus for corporations that want to use it for corporate training and tech conferences and things like what Erin was telling me about before the presentation started, where you're playing Kahoot in a big setting. And Kahoot charges companies for that. You don't want to pay money. You want to sign up as an educator and have it be free. Just saying. So, everybody doing well? I'm assuming you've got it.
Yeah, I see Halloween options.
Halloween options are fun. My Bio 112 class successfully convinced me to play a Halloween Kahoot yesterday. So, I let them.
Do you find, while she's getting ready, do you find that they ever get like, I think that Kahoot is like pretty engaging, right? And the students get really excited about it, because I get excited about doing them myself. But do you find that they kind of get desensitized to it at some point, where it's like, it's just another Kahoot? Is that a thing that happens, or is that really not the case?
It depends on how you use the Kahoot. I actually got that the very first time I played Kahoot with my students in Franklin, because 25% of our students in Franklin are in the early college. And the early college in Franklin uses Kahoot all the time. And they thought, oh, it's just another Kahoot, it's going to be boring. It's all in how you design the Kahoot and in how you're using the Kahoot And also I've noticed in how frequently you use the Kahoot. So I don't do more than one every 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Because when you use them every day, they're like, it's Kahoot again.
Okay.
But if you use it once every 2 weeks or so, they're like, oh, we get to do Kahoot today?
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
it's very much that. And often I find with older students, because we do have that huge mix here at SCC, older students tend to struggle with Kahoot the first time they play it. So I actually do practice Kahoots. Like I would pick one of those spooky Halloween Kahoots and play it with students for the first time. At the beginning of the semester, I forget what we did. It was movie trivia or something, just random stuff. I'm like, this is low stakes. This is how do you hit the button in the Kahoot quiz. And I don't even bother to make them. I search what someone else has gone to the effort of making, because it's not meant to be subject related. It's not meant to be anything that counts. It's just how do you play Kahoot.
The most recent Kahoot experience I had, I could tell that there were other folks in the room who, by the third question, they were like, okay, now I've got it. So it did take them a little while to get comfortable with what was going on.
Usually I found it takes 5 to 7 questions, because we do have that broad age range and broad, even just people who are more interested in school than others, and everyone's here for different reasons. So 5 to 7 questions is usually ideal for learning how to use Kahoot. And I have found that when playing Kahoot, I have gone over 20 questions, but when you go over 20 questions, they're like, is this game ever going to end? All right, so now you're in Kahoot. So what you do when you've made a Kahoot is you see this screen, and you can click on My Kahoots, and you won't have anything here. We'll get to that. So you will have something there by the end of today, if you don't already. I don't know, have you made any Kahoots already, Erin?
Apparently not recently, because none of mine are shown. I guess if I clicked on My Kahoot. Yes, I do have one. If I follow your directions, I do.
You have one, good. But yeah, so you start to see Kahoots. So the first Kahoot I made, I showed Gattaca in my Bio 111 class. And you can see when you look at Gattaca, it has this random little Kahoot logo, because I had no idea what I was doing, and I haven't gone back to edit it yet. I haven't had time. But then as you go up, you can start to see, oh, look, this one has a photo, and this one plays a movie preview somewhere. I have one that plays a movie preview. Yeah, Gorillas in the Mist will actually play a movie preview if we hit play, so that goes with the movie. So they're really good when you need students to watch a film, right? In the end of German 2, for example, you might expect students to be able to understand German enough to actually watch a film in German. I don't know if that's an assignment you have, but how much did they comprehend? In my biology classes, my biology 1 watches Gattaca to understand genetics ethics, and then they go through. It's like, you don't get to sleep through movie day. Sorry, it's not that kind of movie. We actually want you to think about, right? What is the purpose of watching this movie? What are you supposed to learn from this? And so quick review questions for a movie tend to go over really well. It just makes it a fun day in general, right? You get to do a movie and then do an online quiz. Other things that I have done are exam reviews. Those are the ones that go on forever, because there's a lot to cover when you're reviewing for an exam. And by the end, students are like, why am I still playing this? So, one thing I found with exam reviews is students often want to have the quizzes to take at home. They don't care so much about playing them in class, but there's actually a way for students to play the Kahoot at home against themselves, or they can set up a Skype or Facebook group and play against their peers in the class on their own time as a study group. And they really like that. And I'll show you how to send that out once you make one. But they like being able to do that. So the really long Kahoots, I don't necessarily play them in class anymore. I've learned my lesson the hard way. But I don't get rid of them, and I do continue to make them, but I give them straight to the students. I don't play them in class. So another good one, earlier Lisa was asking about, oh, I teach German, so vocabulary might be a good way to use Kahoot. Absolutely. Vocab's a great thing. You can see I have my language of science class. So I'm just going to do a preview so you don't have to play it. But you can see it's still going to load on preview mode. It is still going to give me the options of classic versus team mode, but now I put my game pin in on my computer. And this is my pretend mobile phone. And so this is a great way to double check. I always play my Kahoots in preview mode before I give them to my students because I find really bad typos. I'm not an English teacher for a reason. I teach biology. Life is better that way. And so you can actually go through and see how your Kahoots have done and if it looks good and what's it look like. And then you're actually, in this case, both controlling it as the master of the game and you're having to hit your answers on the pretend smartphone on the screen. So I have a practice question because this is the first Kahoot my students ever play that's actually for a purpose, right? It's for a game. And so I give them extra time and I show them, look, you have to read the question on the board and then match it to your smartphone and hit the button that matches. And so the nice thing about making a Kahoot and practicing it is I always get them right. So I always win when I play against myself. But it works really well for vocabulary. So traditionally for vocabulary, I give students 30 seconds after that first question. But that's a good, nice feature of Kahoot is that not all questions have to have the same amount of time. And questions can be higher order questions. They don't all have to be directly basic multiple choice memorization. Like any multiple choice question, a Kahoot can have higher order multiple choice. A good example of that is in my Gorillas of the Mist Kahoot. So after watching it, one thing you can do if you don't want to play it, you can just look at the questions and the answers. When you come down, I have down here, women such as primates make good observers of great apes because there was nowhere in Gorillas of the Mist that said anything about why women are good at studying primates. Okay, it's a movie about Dian Fossey who studied gorillas in Africa. And we talk about it when we talk about animals in general biology too. And during the whole movie, it's about Dian Fossey studying gorillas, but the scientist that hired her was a man. The first primatologist was a man. Why in the 70s did they go to all this effort of recruiting women, Jane Goodall and Barik Gadaris, to study primates? And so they have all of these critical thinking answers they have to start thinking about. Women are more observant than men. Well, that's not really true. It depends on the person, whether you're a man or a woman, right? Or women are more likely to publish what they're told. No, not really. This is during the feminist movement. Women are more likely to do the opposite of what they're told. So you have to start thinking about context of what you should have learned in your history classes and what you know is common sense. And so women have pheromones that don't threaten the silverbacks, which by this point in biology, that should be something that's going in the back of their heads, right? That all people have a scent. And silverbacks are big, scary male gorillas in charge of a group, right? And so they can critically figure that out after having watched the movie to learn what a silverback is and having taken the class up to that point. So just because it's multiple choice, don't feel limited to rote memorization about teaching or that sort of thing, because we tell our students that all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And we get told that all the time, I hope. So the couple of other ways you can use Kahoots, you can do it as a jumble. So a jumble is different from the quiz Kahoots I've shown you. In a jumble, students get questions that have to be put in order. Okay, so they have to get the answers in order. So this one I'm going to preview for you so you can see the difference. In a jumble, it works really well for conceptual things like mitosis and meiosis. I don't know how much you remember your high school biology classes, but it has to be in order.
But that would be good for sentence order, I would think.
It would be good for sentence order, verb conjugation, anything that has a rule.
Can you combine, you can't combine questions that are jumble questions with multiple choice questions, is that right?
Not yet.
Okay.
But there is a place on the Kahoot website where you can ask them to make new things. So that's a good request. So, a jumble question is a little bit different because you read the question, during mitosis, what are the order of these 4 phases? And then when you look at the phone, you can see now they're blocks. And so you actually have to drag the correct order into the block. I don't know what order they're in. And I give a minute for the jumble questions because it takes longer to drag things into the block and read all the answers and figure out the order. And students have to look at the screen and then look at their phone and look at the screen and then look at their phone, right, to match everything up. So I do give a longer period of time for these than I do for a traditional quiz Kahoot. So there's an option. Survey Kahoots. One of the basic survey Kahoots I've done, my students found survey Kahoots to be very boring. There are no points. There's no game. It's just, hey, look, it's information. What do I do with it? I thought it was very helpful because I quizzed my students on class participation and what kind of activities they preferred. And they're like, this would have been so much better as a jumble, so we could order all of these different things. And I said, no, to me, it would not be better as a jumble because you can actually, most of the time, people go with their first instinct. That's really what they like the best. And that's really the most you can change, right? If you're having students order things, now I have 20 students, I'm trying to figure out, well, what do they actually really like? So if I ask for just the first thing, then I have a number I can kind of sort of work with and pick what direction the class needs to go in. So you can ask that, and then like with anything, you can save the results, which I did for this one. So you could see it. So survey results look a lot like the other results that you saw. You can hit individual questions and see what each student preferred. But you can also see the kinds of different nicknames they pick. Mr. 7, Panda 3, right? They're going to pick some crazy stuff.
Party Grandpa.
Yeah. He was Big Grandpa on the first Kahoot this morning, Party Grandpa on the second, and Old Grandpa on the third one. So he was a grandpa all day.
He's getting progressively older.
Yeah, yeah, progressively more fun and older. But they pick what they want. Sometimes they do something I can figure out. Like D. Sout, he chose his first initial and the first 4 letters of his last name. It's exactly like his SEC login. I can figure out who that student is, right? I don't have to ask for a nickname. On the other hand, 1, 2, 3, if I really needed to know, I'd have to ask. And that's something I have done when I took it for a grade, is I asked, and I said, hey, what is your name? And so then I kept the results as a grade, and so now I have somewhere that I've lost, apparently, the results of my students having taken it as a grade, and I've gone in, and you can actually edit the Excel file to change their nicknames back to their real name for your personal use. All right. The last type of Kahoot is a discussion Kahoot, and I'm actually going to show you that by doing it, because discussion Kahoots are meant to be done in the middle of class while you're talking. They're very short. They're not meant to be fancy. You can make them fancy if you're planning on using them ahead of time. But with a discussion Kahoot, you're just supposed to have a quick title. So you can put in the minimum. And then, unfortunately, all descriptions must be in hashtags. That's how students search for the Kahoots, is with hashtags. And I know hashtags are not necessarily our thing, but the average player of a Kahoot is going to be a millennial or younger, and hashtags are their world.
Yeah.
So we just have to learn to type in hashtags.
I've got a Twitter account, but I rarely tweet. My life is just not worth tweeting about.
Yeah, I mean, and then you have to have things that are required. So the title's required, the description's required in any Kahoot, but trust me, discussion's still faster. And then we will pick the university level as a community college for our Kahoots, and then you can just click OK, go. Discussions only let you add in one question. You can't add in multiple questions in a discussion Kahoot. And so, and there is a word limit for your Kahoots. And there's no right or wrong answer because it's meant to just get a discussion started. And you can add an image if you want. Often if I'm in a hurry, I pick a random image off of the Google beta that they've added. And then I hit next. And then this Kahoot, because it's a discussion, is ready to play. So if you get out your devices, we might as well use this lovely discussion Kahoot.
Kahoot again?
Yes, you're still on Kahoot.it. And that's one thing your students won't question you about. They will automatically know that they go to Kahoot.it after the first one. They get very into it. But this is designed so you can say in the middle of class, hey, pull out your device. Students carry laptops, they carry smartphones. I have never met a student that didn't have some sort of electronic device on their person. I haven't. One in 5 years. One I've met that didn't have an electronic device. So they'll pull something out, they'll go to Kahoot.it or to the Kahoot app, and they'll be good to go. Oh, excuse me. So, waiting for Lynn. These are 3 people I know who I'm waiting for. I'm often in a class of like 17, 18. I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, so who's not into Kahoot yet? And then you walk over and you help the student get logged in. And then you come back. Typically the login issues are that they forgot the link. So you have to remind them it's Kahoot.it. Or the more common issue I find is the iPad randomly restarted. And you're just literally waiting because that's what electronic devices do. You procrastinate on restarting your...
I was going to be grandma, but that was too much to fuss. I think I went back to Lynn.
Fair enough. So there's only one question in discussion. There's no points. It's just to pick an answer, no right or wrong. So could I find an application for Kahoot in my classroom? So absolutely, maybe, what's Kahoot, or no way? And so the answers can be as interesting or zany as you would like. And that's the whole purpose of the discussion. We have one. And so you said absolutely, right? So then going in, my next question is going to be, so what could you use Kahoot for in your classroom? Not rhetorical.
Oh. Vocabulary would be especially.
Okay.
Word order, sentences in the jumbles, I can see that happening. Grammar, too, sure.
Absolutely. Linda, I know you teach teacher education.
We could do ages and stages in the jumble. Surveys if they have questions, because I have a lot of older students. And so if we initiated this, I'm sure they have a lot of questions, and we'd probably get some that would say they need help with this.
Yeah, Absolutely. And the one nice thing, I've noticed some students don't like talking in class. And so Kahoot takes away the stakes of they're contributing and they feel like they're participating without having to say anything. But then when we lead into the discussion, only the students that are comfortable talking have to say anything, but you still know everyone was actually paying attention. The last way I use Kahoot, now that we've figured out a discussion, and you can see it's really short, right? And the leaderboard on these is completely based off who answered the fastest. And you can still get results and do feedback and all that fun stuff. The last type of Kahoot that I have done, and when you're done, you click I'm done, is a blind Kahoot. And blind Kahoots are interesting because unlike a traditional, like just this is a survey, or this is a jumble, or this is a quiz, a blind Kahoot is a quiz or jumble styled Kahoot that's designed to introduce a topic in lecture. So when students go in, you know they're going to have the wrong answer on the first question. You should warn them of this. Because then when they lose, they won't be as upset. But you're just going, hey, you're going to miss the first question. It's okay. What happens in a blind Kahoot is that once you get the first question wrong, I explain why you got it wrong. I give you some new information, and then we go into the second question. And if you were paying attention to my explanation of the first question, you should get the second question right.
So it's a chain.
Yes. So blind Kahoots are using the quiz or jumble application of Kahoot in a chain reaction. So instead of reviewing knowledge, now I'm getting them engaged and learning about it. My students absolutely loved and adored it, and they told me that every lecture should be a blind Kahoot, and I said that was never going to happen. But it does get students very, very interested and very engaged because they want to, they're like, oh, I have to pay attention to lecture. I have to listen to this material because if I don't, I'm going to get the question wrong. And then party grandpa's going to beat me. And that just can't happen, right? Got to beat the party grandpa. So that really gets students very, very interested. I did that actually today, this morning, with my introduction to genetics. I told them, you're going to get the first question wrong. What is genetics? And there's, their list of choices. And then I explain what genetics is, and it goes into the next question of what is the genome. And if they were listening to what genetics was, they should get that right. And it just keeps going from there. So it's a very interesting application of Kahoot. So now you're going to create a Kahoot. It can be anything. I'm just going to walk you through how to do it. So the first thing you do is go to New Kahoot and create the type of Kahoot you want to create. So, oh dear, I accidentally copied that. Okay, so you can pick a quiz, which is going to be for points. You can pick a jumble, or you can pick a discussion or a survey. Now remember, if you pick a discussion, it's only going to be one question long. So as you start picking through that, all of the first pages look the same. So every single one of these is going to look the same. So
you don't pick blind Kahoot, but it's an application of
a quiz or jumble Kahoot.
So you just decide, I'm going to use this tool
to make a blind
Kahoot. Okay.
Yes, you don't pick blind Kahoot. You pick quiz or jumble, and then you design it knowing that the questions need to be a series of chain reactions.
Got it.
They're harder to make on the upside, just like any kind of discussion's harder to lead than, right, quizzing a student would be, but the students really enjoy them. So there's that. So they're all the same. You must put in a title. You must put in some sort of hashtag description. So I'm training faculty to make Kahoots, right? Kahoots are more interesting. You noticed the SEC video that played on my one Kahoot. If you want to put in a video, you need to find a video that is on YouTube. Okay? So any video on YouTube is fair game, and you copy and paste the URL from YouTube into where it says intro video at the bottom. So that'll play like the video from SEC played when we started our Kahoot at the beginning of the workshop. If you don't want to go to the effort of locating a video and you have an image on your computer from a textbook that you've downloaded for a PowerPoint or something already that you want to use, you can upload an image by clicking here. And then anything you already have saved on your computer is fair game. So you can save an internet search. You can use, as I said, textbook photos, personal photos if you're willing to share them. Whatever you have, as long as it's saved as a JPEG, will go in. And a lot of textbook graphics are already JPEG, so that's not a problem there. The other option, which Kahoot's testing, and I love, is that you can click on the Google Beta image and randomly select an image to add to your Kahoot. And it'll automatically go in and make your Kahoot look a little more interesting. And then you go to OK Go. And now you can add as many questions as you would like. So this is where you can choose the time length. Ooh, they've made it shorter. You can go 5 seconds. I don't recommend that. You're not going to learn much. But you can go, as I said, 20 seconds to 120 seconds are ideal depending on the type of question you're asking. My standard for simple recall questions is 30 seconds. The standard I pick for jumbles and things that require order is 60 seconds. Critical thinking, I often do 60 seconds. I typically don't go further than 60 seconds because students become impatient and bored, and students become very indecisive, and they hem and they haw and they don't hit anything, and then the question times out and they're like, well, I didn't pick anything. So try not to do that. You must have a question. There is a word limit of 95 characters. That includes spaces. And then for answers, there's a character limit of 60 characters. And that is, again, so that students are actually playing the game and learning recall and not sitting there trying to read it or figure out what's going on. And you must have at least 2 answers, so true, false is good in Kahoot. Multiple choice up to 4 answers is fine. It won't let you put just 1 answer because that kind of defeats the purpose.
One nice thing that I noticed about using an image from the Google Beta option was that it automatically puts in the resource, the credit,
Yes.
for the image, which is really nice. If we wish that all images could be correctly cited in
Yes.
any technology tool, that's a really unusual and nice feature.
And then when you're done with your Kahoot, you click Save, and you have the choice to edit it, preview it, which is what I showed you, where you could just look at the questions with the phone on the side, or play it, or share it. And when you're done, you click I'm done. A few other features of Kahoot you can do is that once you've made one, Kahoots are automatically public. You can choose to make them private, so only students with the link can have them as opposed to searching for one. You don't have to make your own Kahoot. If you're trying to just teach students how to use Kahoot for the first time, you can search Halloween trivia. You can search first of fall trivia. If you really want to annoy them, you could use my lovely Southwestern Community College trivia. So there's all sorts of things, right, you can actually search for. Or if there's a concept you're not sure how to go about making a Kahoot for, you can try searching it into the search bar and seeing if the Kahoot subject's already there from someone else, and you can use their Kahoot. I didn't do that for Contagion and Gattaca. When I showed them, I actually made my own, because when I searched for them, the Kahoots were in existence, but they were all for the middle school and high school level, and the questions were too easy. So do make sure to preview a Kahoot before you use it in class if you're going to use someone else's. The last feature of Kahoot that students really love and adore is this one. I got a lot of, can we have this for at home? Yes, you can have this for at home. Because this was my blind Kahoot, my intro to genetics, and students had right to listen to the lecture to answer the next question. If I click challenge, I can assign the Kahoot as homework. I can still read the results as a game master. I can allow students to practice with it. And so with the date I set, the Kahoot's going to pop back up for me in the My Kahoots, which is really kind of fun. Yes?
When I click challenge on my Jumble, I don't... Oh, it says challenges are currently unavailable for Jumble. Got it.
Yes.
Okay, I can read. Okay.
Yes. Challenges are currently unavailable for Jumble. Challenges are currently available for quiz and survey. So, and that's the music I always mute. That's why. It is. It's fun music, right? And you can add your own music with a YouTube video if you'd like.
That's getting way fancy.
I know. When I learned how to use Kahoot, the guy had, oh gosh, an actor, I forget his name, in a commercial dancing down a hallway in a hotel. Like, look, isn't this cool? And he goes, it's my thing. My students expect random music when the Kahoot is coming up. I'm like, no. Not my thing. I'm glad you like it, but you can. So to share a Kahoot, you can do one of two things. You can either put the pin on the board, so when students go to kahoot.it or open the app, they can type in the pin. Or if you want to post on Blackboard, you can actually post the link onto Blackboard, just the way you would add a new item. I'm hoping you all know how to do that on Blackboard.
Can you have more than one Kahoot? Like, could you have one for your bio class and then one for your, I'm going to say, genetics class, because we're just going to say that happens.
Sure.
Can you have them both live at the same time?
Absolutely.
Cool.
And the audience will be who I give it to.
Yes.
So when I'm teaching Bio 1 and Bio 2, who are in very different places in biology, right, I can have a quiz for one and a quiz for the other.
And how does it stack up with the scores? Because I know that when you're doing it live, your speed is important. How does it?
So this is just going to give you accuracy.
Okay.
So speed is not as important. But I often don't bother grading the challenges. I put them there for students to review. That's just because it's more effort than I think it's worth, but that is completely up to you. But it'll give you the accuracy at the end of the time frame. So you, this one says it's already live until November 1st, 2017, because I posted on Blackboard this morning for my students to look at. And so on November 1st, I'll get an email with the results showing me what they did.
Can I save what I come up with and we'll just go back to it later? And
Absolutely. So any Kahoot you've already done, the initial Kahoot that I had here was 4 questions, and when students loved it, I added 3 more because they liked the blind Kahoot discussion lecture format. So all you have to do is when you're in Kahoot, you actually want to be on the My Kahoots page. And then for whichever Kahoot you want to edit, you scroll over it and hit the edit button.
Okay.
And you can add, change, fix typos, update with new information, whatever you'd like. Okay. The last thing I want to point out, now that we've talked about how to make one, how to save it, how to use it, the big things that I have are under the troubleshooting on your handout. A few last reminders, because I know we're going over on time. Make sure everyone's ready with a device before you hit play. Once the Kahoot has started, it's started. You can't add someone in later. Students may pick awkward or inappropriate nicknames. I'm actually going to pick the demo Kahoot and hit play. Erin, if you would be so kind, I'm going to show you. Put something that you think is completely inappropriate in. Let's hope Kahoot kicks you out. So, if Erin tries to put something completely inappropriate in, Kahoot should put naughty nicknames beware up on the screen.
Okay, so you want me to really
put something you think's inappropriate, it shouldn't show up. I could have you all try something inappropriate. That Kahoot didn't think that was inappropriate.
Are you serious?
Nope, mine. Like your mine.
I didn't put that in.
And that's what happens.
Oh.
What you show.
Interesting.
So mine, nobody thinks anything mine is wrong with mine, right?
Right.
That's not what Erin typed.
It is not what I typed.
So Kahoot changed it. Now the student 1 doesn't know who they are.
Right.
And 2, right, now you have to do something with this. So to
I'm
kick
in.
us, you're
I'm
in.
in, but I'm not in.
She's in, but she's not in. So to kick them out, see how the X came up? You just click on the name and they go away. So if a student types in something that they think is appropriate and Kahoot thinks is appropriate, like Christ money, Kahoot let that one in with one of my students earlier this semester. The student said, "Oh, my name's Christian. I meant to put Chris money, but I forgot to not type the T." And I'm like, "Yeah, Click, you're gone," because half the class is getting very upset. You don't want a disgruntled class. So if you think that it's an inappropriate nickname, you can just X them out, like I showed you. Yeah, you're allowed to do biology sucks. I personally would say, yeah, goodbye. And so Kahoot doesn't necessarily think that's bad. But if you or any of your students think it's bad, you can knock them out and they'll have to retype something appropriate. So if students don't get logged in and you've only, say, done the first question, and by get logged in I mean like the computer reboots, which I've had happen a couple of times, or the iPad reboots, just start the Kahoot over. Usually students don't get too upset if it's only one question. And I've already talked about devices going to sleep. Kahoot will re-log you in, but students may miss the question. So warn them not to let that happen. And then I put the link in for Kahoot's troubleshooting help fact page. It's very long and very extensive and kind of hard to dig through. But they also have a live chat link where a nice handy dandy person will tell you where to go for help. All right. That is the end of the presentation. Anyone have? Oh, thank you. Any last minute questions, comments, thoughts?